So a lot of stuff has gone down over the past few days. Most of you by now are familiar with the situation with Chris Dorner. Chris Dorner was an ex-LAPD cop who was very dissatisfied with the way that he was let go and was disgusted with the way that the LAPD, the precinct that he worked for, treated people. He was disgusted by the racism and the corruption, and in his words, saw the most vile things in human nature, and they weren't from criminals. They were from criminals behind the badge. You know, this is a situation that I've been struggling with for the past few days now because I don't agree with a lot of the actions that Christopher Dorner has taken, though I do agree with the moral behind his story, I suppose you could say. And I guess what I view his story to be is this. These cops are fucked up, and he wants it to fucking change. As we know, though, especially when you're dealing with such huge amounts of people and the type of corruption that they exhibit and the type of power that they have, just pure manpower and gun power, that shit just doesn't change. You know, in this case, as I said earlier to a friend of mine, I mean, the pen is no longer mightier than the sword. I guess you could say the pen is mightier than the sword after the battle is won, because, as we know, the winners write history. As I said in my blog a few days ago, I mean, a simple YouTube search will turn up hundreds, if not hundreds of thousands, of examples of police brutality in the recent years. I mean, if you look up police brutality 2012, you're going to see a lot of shit that's good. That should disgust you. It really should disgust you. So it's hard. It's really fucking hard not to look at somebody who's doing something like Chris Dorner's doing and not agree with him just a little bit. But I'm not here to tell you that I agree or disagree with Christopher Dorner and his actions. I will tell you that I don't like when people have to die. Or rather, when they die and they didn't have to. Okay, here's a fact. Police are getting crazy these days. And like I said, a simple YouTube search will prove that to you, definitively. I mean, there's video evidence of all of this kind of shit happening everywhere, all the time. So, like I said, I'm not here to tell you whether or not I agree with Christopher Dorner and his actions. However, I will say that I do understand what it is that he was trying to do. So what does someone with the type of anger that Christopher Dorner had toward his precinct, what does someone like that have to do to really change things? Apparently he tried. He tried the legal route. He tried to change his personal situation. And his personal situation was brought on by the fact that he was trying to stop an officer from abusing somebody who was not a threat. You've heard this term a lot the past few days. It's called the blue line. And officers don't cross it. And when they do, they get canned or worse. But here's a fact. Officers more and more increasingly get away with murder, basically. I mean, in certain cases, quite literally, murder. So now you have someone like Christopher Dorner, who has a personal vendetta, something that they've done to him personally, or at least he sees it that way, and who is also fed up with the rampant racism and violence and corruption within his own department. He's one man. Again, he's vastly outgunned and outmanned. So what weapon does he have? A lot of people are saying, well, he should have, you know, talked to somebody, gone to the media. How many things have come out in the media in the past couple of years that should change the very foundations of the way that the country is going, but haven't? So now, someone like Chris Dorner's thinking the only weapon that he has is fear. So how do you make somebody who hears threats every day afraid of those threats? I'm sure that LAPD officers and officers across the country get threatened all the time. I mean, threats against their own life, their family's life. I'm sure this is not an isolated incident that somebody said, "I'm coming after you and your family, man." So they get tough to it. Their skin hardens to it. How do you break that? You do it. You follow through with those threats. And that's what Christopher Dorner did, and I'm not saying I agree with it. However, I will say, when it's a war between one person and 1,000 people, that's the only weapon you have, is to make them fear you. It's guerrilla warfare. That's exactly what it is. You know, at the end of the day, I hope that what can come from this is that we learn from our mistakes. I hope we can learn from the mistakes that Christopher Dorner made. And I hope that we can learn from the mistakes that the LAPD made that created a Christopher Dorner. Anyway, that's my 2 cents. So let me know what you think in the comments section below, and feel free to subscribe to my channel if you want to, and I'll catch you guys next week.